Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and just like Patrick Mahomes will attempt next Friday, tonight in our episode, we're going to try for a three-peat of excellence in our third episode of the semester. And to help us achieve that lofty goal, we've got Julia Chavez from Greyhound Women's Basketball. We've got Eric Belcher, the head coach of Greyhound Women's Soccer. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Greyhound track and field had a good showing last weekend. Probably the best performance was our student body president, Tamia Smith, who finished fourth in the shot put. Greyhound baseball, they were pretty good. They took 3 out of 4 from Texas A&M International. Greyhound softball, they were even better. They played in a tournament in San Angelo, took 4 out of 5. Greyhound women's basketball, they beat their bitter arch rivals, West Texas A&M. And Greyhound basketball, down 5 points with 6.5 seconds to go in the game, scored the last 6 points of the game and won by 1. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear the set and we'll bring in our first guest, Julia Chavez from Greyhound Women's Basketball, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring to the set of Sportslook one of the members of the Greyhound women's basketball team, Julia Chavez. And Julia, welcome to Sportslook.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Well, the first question, where are you from originally, and what was the process that got you here to Eastern?
I'm originally from Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and basically the process that got me here was I was in high school trying to play basketball, trying to get recruited. And then I came to a couple camps here at Eastern when Coach Prock was the coach. And then from there, he just liked what he saw. I kept sending film. And then I got a scholarship offer here and then just chose Eastern because it was a good school, close to home, and just had a good major for me to pursue as well.
Was basketball always your sport, or did you play others and then just gradually concentrate on basketball?
I played soccer all the way up until 8th grade. And then after that, I decided it was kind of conflicting with practice times and stuff like that. And it was hard to make everything for both sports. So then after that, I chose to focus on basketball.
So who were the big influences on you to become the basketball player that you became?
I would definitely say my sister, because she grew up playing basketball as well, and she's 2 years older than me, and I was just like, oh, wow, it looks like so much fun. Like, I should pursue it. And then also my dad, he always pushed us to be in sports. So, and then after every game, he'd always give me tips and stuff that I could do better. So definitely those two for sure.
Some people that I've met that became really good basketball players just like to play the game and they don't really watch very much of the game. And other people, it's like they're going to play and they're going to watch as much as they possibly can. Where do you come down on the spectrum?
I'm definitely the more play rather than watch person. So like I'll watch a couple basketball games here and there, but I just want to be on the court and play majority of the time.
So what was your experience when you got to Eastern New Mexico University? For a lot of kids coming out of high school, no matter how good they are in high school, it's definitely a learning experience. So is that kind of your experience as well?
Yeah, it was definitely tough my first year, like adjusting to the speed of the game, the different like style of play, and there's just like also the different teammates coming from like a bunch of different places all over the country. So definitely adjusting to all that was shocking.
Usually there's one player, a veteran, that takes a new player under her wing. And if you had a veteran that really helped to nurture you along, who was that veteran?
It was probably Zam, because I was at the time playing point guard as well and just trying to like see what she was doing, especially knowing that she was a sophomore when I came. And then she had played a lot her freshman year, so I was like, well, that's what I want to do. So if I follow in her footsteps, like it definitely helped me get to that point. So, yeah.
Well, obviously, Greyhound women's basketball had tremendous success under Coach Prock, and so looking at the Coach Prock years, what really was the highlight of those years for you?
I would say it was hard because I only got 1 year because of COVID, and like the end of that year was kind of ended short because of the COVID. And so I think the highlight though was probably the Lone Star Conference tournament. I think we made it all the way to the semis that
You did,
year.
yep.
And so I think that was definitely the highlight. And then making the NCAA tournament, unfortunately, we didn't get to play, but that was probably the highlight of those years.
Well, and speaking of, unfortunately, last year you did get to play and were a mainstay of Coach Steelis Reyes' squad. This year, unfortunately, you haven't been able to play, and I know that had to be tough when you found out that you had an injury that was going to deprive you of the year.
Yes, it was definitely tough. Like coming in, I was very excited for my senior year, and being here for so long, I was excited to be like one of the leaders on the team. So when I found out that I got hurt in preseason and not getting to play in any type of game was definitely hard for me. But I'm glad I'm still with the team and just being able to support them and just always being there for them as well in any way I can be.
And I'm not just saying it because you're nice and show up for the taping of Sportslook, but I really admire you because you've been there. I mean, every time that I've been in a game, you've been there. I've seen you at practice. And so you're obviously trying to do for the younger kids what was done for you when you got here.
Yeah, definitely still just trying to be a positive leader in any way that I can be off and on the court. So
And obviously, the Greyhound ladies have had pretty good success. So we just recently had a two-game homestand against our bitter arch rivals, West Texas A&M and Lubbock Christian. And we actually have highlights of those games. So what we're going to do is we're going to cue up the highlight reel, and please walk us through your impressions.
all right, sounds good. Well, that was a good jump ball, and Shipley for three. She's been hitting a lot lately.
Yeah, she has really upped her game
Yeah.
offensively.
We definitely got off onto a hot start here at the beginning of the WT game. We, I think, made a 7-0 run and then caused Coach Prock to take a timeout right away. So that was a nice one for sure.
One of the young ladies back from last year, Bella Stone. And as you said, there's Coach Prock having to burn a timeout.
Yep. So that was nice, and it helped us having him to use that timeout early on, and towards the end of the game, not having any timeouts at the end. And then our defense has definitely improved a lot, I think, since last time we played WT, especially our post defense caused a lot of turnovers this game.
Absolutely, young lady there, number 35, a former teammate of yours.
Yeah, in high school and here.
Corinne Camaro with her only 2-point basket of the season so far.
It was an exciting one for sure. And that's her usual shot.
And another freshman with a rebound there, Kiki Roberts.
Yeah, she's been killing it on the boards lately. Definitely helping our team get extra chances on the offensive end and ending other teams' offensive.
And there she goes, doing
Yep,
what she does
and
well.
one.
Yeah, actually, on that play, you had 3 freshmen on the floor at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Now we switch over to Lubbock Christian. Good patience.
Yeah, definitely took our time, and it pays off usually.
You can tell Adisha Beck was a Division I ball player at one time in her life.
For sure, with her ball handling and everything. Her speed is crazy.
Plus, being a left-hander, most defenders aren't used to defending against a lefty.
Mm-hmm.
Daisy Adrian, pretty good.
Yeah, it's been nice having her back now from her injury, so definitely needed. She came back at the right time.
Yeah, she just can get downhill, as the expression goes, really fast.
And even though she's not the tallest, she definitely uses that speed to her advantage.
Yep. As we said, Ashley's definitely stepped up her game.
Yeah, like especially from 3.
Well, Julia, obviously, last year with you on the team and with some pretty talented teammates, we did go to the Lone Star Conference playoffs. But for one reason or another, Bella Stone, the only player from last year's squad that is playing this year. So, what has allowed a group of brand new ball players to really gel and have a legitimate chance of going to the playoffs again this year?
I would say it's accredited more to the coaches. Just they've brought us all in and they have basically decided that we're going to be a family, and we have a bunch of events that we go to together, a bunch of team dinners, and that just has caused us to grow as a team and as a whole overall. And as well as outside of like on the court, we're always hanging out at somebody's apartment or just like gelling off the court as well as on the court. So I think a lot to do with the coaches just always pushing us to be closer.
And let me ask you a question, and obviously this is not carved in stone, but next week we'll be playing against Western New Mexico. Monday the 20th, President's Day, is actually going to be Senior Day.
Yes.
Are you going to come back for another year, or will that be your last appearance at Greyhound Arena?
Or I'm still deciding because I do have this year's redshirt injury year and then also a COVID year. So I could get my master's, but it's still kind of up in the air on how my recovery goes. And that's basically what I want to base it off of, is just based off of how good my knee gets back together.
So looking down the road, what do you hope to do? What is your career path if you had your druthers?
So far, well, my degree's in electronics engineering technology. So, as of right now, I have had a couple internships in the power field, and I've enjoyed that. But I could still haven't decided if that's the route I want to for sure take, or if like something in semiconductor devices, stuff like that. But something in that area.
Okay, and I've got to finish up with a really tough question. Thinking back to all of the classes that you've had at Eastern New Mexico University, what was your favorite class?
I would have to say U.S. history with Doc Elder.
Oh my gosh, what an unexpected answer. And I could definitely tell our audience you're a very bright young lady, and whatever you decide to do in your career, you're going to be a success.
Thank you.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment. So what we'll do is we'll go to the set and we'll bring in Eric Belcher from Greyhound Women's Soccer right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring back to the set of Sportslook the head coach of Greyhound Women's Soccer, Eric Belcher. And Coach, welcome back to Sportslook.
Thanks for having me. You know, I always enjoy being in here and chatting it up.
Well, Coach, is there still kind of the new car smell to Greyhound Women's Soccer, or is just now you're totally in the routine?
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. I think we do still kind of have that new car smell. I was up at UNM this past weekend and chatting with those guys, and they're like, how long you been here? And dawned on me, like 5 months, which is still not a lot, but, you know, we're enjoying it, and then it's getting a little bit used to Portales and what we do here at ENMU.
So what was the biggest surprise? I mean, you obviously did due diligence. I had a chance to actually talk to you right after you got hired, and I was very impressed with how much you did know. But what is the one thing that kind of surprised you, either good or bad, about your new gig?
I guess the biggest surprise is how many folks actually want to play in New Mexico versus how many just want to leave the state. It's always tough when you get that 17 or 18-year-old, and the first thing you want to do is get away from their parents. So it's been a bumpy road trying to get those kids to understand, hey, New Mexico is very, very, very cost efficient for you financially. And here at ENMU, you could play soccer, financially be set, and we have a bunch of majors.
And speaking of which, is there one major that you have found your young ladies gravitate to, or is it pretty much across the board?
It's pretty much the wild, wild west when it comes to it. I think more females are kind of gearing towards engineering now, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if we have that one, but
We do.
it's something that I like to see. It's not just the regular old, nursing or anything like that. It's more so the spectrum has been broad, which is one of the reasons why I chose to come here, because there's so much that, you could pick up as a student.
And interestingly enough, the young lady that was my first guest, Julia Chavez, is electrical engineering.
Okay.
So obviously a proof positive that
Yeah.
that is indeed a major here. Um, how much did you know about the Lone Star Conference before you got the job, and what are your impressions after surviving a Lone Star Conference year?
I think the big thing I knew was that it was tough. But I think the one thing it never prepares you for is how tough it actually is. Um, you know, there's times where we could go 3 or 4 weeks just playing ranked teams, and that's fun, but it's also very not fun. You're on the road, number one. You're back home, number 10. You're on the road, 14. You're back home, 20. It's a rough couple weeks. But after our year of going through it, the girls did very well. I think the kids we have coming in understand where our level needs to be. And for me, it's more so knowing now a lot of traveling. So my body is getting used to that. And I think going forward, it's going to be a fun time that we're prepared for.
Looking back at the year, was there one young lady, not in terms of like ability on the field kicking the ball, but just being plugged in, being the person who really was the motivator, the kind of conduit between you and the rest of the team? Who was that lady for you?
Yeah, it's funny because we think about this every day. Me and the men's coach, we talk about these kind of players. And I think we had one, and then that one turned into 4 or 5, and then at the end of the season, it was everybody. I could go to this girl, and she's on the same level as this girl. But we did have our captain Kenzie Mitchell, who stepped up from summer until now. She still does her thing, and I will say we have probably 5 or 6 other girls that are right there with her. And those kids have made it much easier for me transitioning, and the kids that we've brought in and the kids that we're going to bring in. So it's tough to just pinpoint one, but I think when you look at ENMU soccer, it's Kenzie Mitchell, 5th-year senior coming up this year. So been here the longest, seen it all, done it all, and love it all. So
We actually had a couple of your young ladies on during the season, and they paid you an ultimate compliment. They said that the big difference they saw with you as a head coach was everything had a purpose. There was no wasted moment. It was just like you always did something that worked towards the greater good.
yeah. That's kind of who I am as a person. I don't like wasting my time unless I'm watching movies. Then I'm good with it. But I think that was one thing that helped them, was just having a direction with a purpose. And we talk about those things, and just getting into practice. A lot of what they did and what we do is kind of an extension of me. And I'm one of those folks where if we're gonna go do it, we're gonna go do it. There's no point in being outside, being cold for no reason. So let's get our work done and then go home and get some tea.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
So looking back at the season, what were you most proud of? And it doesn't have to be a win. I mean, but the moment when it was like you were really proud of the young ladies.
For us, I think it's probably the season as a whole. I always go back and watch the games, and I hear some of the commentators from other schools complimenting us, and those kind of things, make me very proud of being here. I think moment-wise, I think we live off a moment. I tell them that if you're having a good moment, chances of you doing well are good. Um, I think it's hard to pinpoint a moment because there's just so many. I guess the freshest one that kind of sticks in my head and a lot of the other team is when we were at Lubbock Christian. We do certain drills in practice, and we do one drill every day. And in that game, that drill happened exactly like we do in practice, and it fell to two freshmen who have been playing great for us all year. But in our conference, you don't really see freshmen stand out. They don't really take the bull by the horns. And in that moment, it was two freshmen that connected, and a moment that even when you go back and watch, you still get goosebumps from. And as a team, we talk about it, and it's just one of those things. But obviously, you could pick from any of the wins we had. Obviously, senior day, we had a senior score the game winner on senior day to beat a team that they haven't beat. We had another senior score one in Oklahoma with a team we've never beat. So those moments are definitely exciting. But I think for us, there's so many that it's just really hard to pinpoint one. But for me, at the time, at this particular moment, it's that one because it encompasses what we do every day. Um, so yeah, that's probably my one at this moment.
Obviously, you did mention the fact that we do have a senior day, and we have to say goodbye to certain young ladies at a certain point in their career. So, just in general, I mean, your seniors you only had for 1 year, but what can you say about them?
Yeah, it's tough because I think we had five, I think it was. A few unfortunately couldn't participate anymore in soccer, so their senior year was a little bit different than what it should have been. And then the ones that got to play, we had a transfer, so even if she was with me or with the previous coach, it still would have been a 1 year deal for her. So either way, and I think she got the most out of her soccer career this year, enjoying what she got to do and obviously scoring the game winner. Then we had a few others that when we looked back, they had their best year this year. And I think a lot of that came from just the freedom that they were allowed to have as soccer players and them enjoying the game and understanding this is it. And then obviously a few managers were seniors and they've done more than what we could have asked as a manager, and we appreciate that. But for me to them, it's one of those tough things because again, it's I've known them for 5 months, and at the end of the season, it's really like 3 months. And when you first get here, it's like, hey, run. It's not really like, hey, you want to go. Tell me a little bit about yourself, but they did well for the circumstances, and I think they've set a good standard for our younger ones, and I think that's going to help us going further.
You didn't really have much flexibility when it came
No.
to recruiting players, but now you do have a chance. And what's your philosophy? I mean, is it go for freshmen, try and develop them, or is it bring in players that have experience, or a combination of both?
Yeah, currently for us, it is a combination. I think the sports world, unfortunately, is going to where the freshman is not going to be as enticing as a transfer. So, in going forward, that's always a tough thing. But so far, we've signed a pretty good mixture of freshmen and transfers. And for us, we want to ensure that the kids in the state do have an option. So we do make sure that we reach out to the ones that are interested in actually continuing their education. And soccer may be an option, it may not be, but as long as we contact them, that's what we want to do. But going forward, it's a wild, wild west now with the portal. So the best player is what we want. The best student is next to that, and kids that want to be in Portales. It's a tough place to call home, especially when you got to play in the Lone Star Conference. But I think we've done a good job in getting a good mix so far, and I think our kids that are here, like the Mitchells and the Baileys that have been here for 5 years, have made it a little bit easier of a transition for that freshman. And obviously, transfers, once you make that move, you're kind of stuck. So you got no choice. Suck it up, do your school, get through, get your degree. So it's been pretty interesting for us these past 5 months in recruiting. But I think the right players who we're after, and if we find them in state, we'll take them. If they're a freshman, we'll take them. If they're a transfer, we'll take them. If they're a grad student, we'll take you. So I guess that's kind of where we're going. But where we'll end up, it's hard to say. We're pretty far out, and at that age, your mind changes, weekly. So
And in conclusion, obviously, here again, you had no flexibility when it came to the schedule. It was carved in stone. So, are there going to be some changes for next year's schedule?
Yeah, so we are on the road to open up again. It's a bit tough as most coaches plan kind of 2 years in advance. So not a lot of things open close to us. So we'll go on the road again. We'll be in Nebraska for 2 games. Then we come home and host Highlands for a game. Then we go to Colorado for 2 games, and then our conference schedule starts from then. So kind of the same situation, but hoping to change that the following year. Now that we got a couple years advance to kind of make that happen. We would love more home games to start the year out, but we get it. We're in the middle of nowhere, and for me, sometimes it's better to go away and get a good team bonding experience your first couple weekends if you can.
Well, congratulations on the success you had in your first year, and I can't wait to see your ladies play the beautiful game next fall.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll clear this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Super Bowl 57 in the books, and it was a historic contest in a number of regards. First of all, the 35 points the Eagles scored, most ever scored by a losing team. The fact that there were two brothers that played against each other, that was a first. But to me, the most important first was the starting quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Not sure if you're aware of it, in a league where most of the players are African American, and they've been African American for many, many years now. That was the first time that both starting quarterbacks were African Americans. Well, that will wrap up an overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guests, Julia Chavez and Eric Belcher. Had a new floor director, Ms. Caitlin, doing the honors tonight. So, for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.